They can arrest or report the offenders.
It's me. Stop joking now.
The National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, were snatched, the source said. They actually went on an official assignment in the area when the hoodlums struck and abducted. Said that Damian Ugonna, 26, and Ukechukwu Chukwemeka, 27, were responsible for the gruesome murder of the undergraduates. The CP, who said that the killing took place on the 17th of April, added that the operatives of the Special Anti-Cultism Unit of the command responded to the situation. According to him, the suspect had made useful statements to the command, even as he pledged that they would be prosecuted. Senators yesterday reviewed the security situation, submitting that people in many parts of the country, especially the north, were at the mercy of hoodlums. They said banditry and kidnapping were now the order of the day, with the rich and the poor falling prey. The senators were contributing to a motion on senseless killing of a Briton and the abduction of 3 others in a holiday resort in Kaduna State by armed bandits, sponsored by Senator Shehu Sani and 108 others. Painting a grim picture of things in Zamfara State, which is fast becoming the epicenter of banditry. Senator Kabiru Marafa said over 3,000 persons were in bandits' den. Earlier today, a legal practitioner, Olawale Amusa, shared his view on this.
Well, it's unfortunate that really the security apparatus really that I would like to say it has failed, or it's failing, you know, because it has been largely politicized. We see them deploying large number of policemen and armed forces, you know, for elections. Meanwhile, we have, you know, so many crimes and all of that happening. This is alarming. 3,000 in kidnappers dead.
Absolutely.
You know, and you begin to wonder that if we have this number of persons, the police should, the different commands should have been given marching orders, you know, to go out and you know, get these people out. But the fact that, you know, it takes the National Assembly and probably the NLC, you know, to cry out about this, that for me is very, very scary. Like we've said, you know, we look at what happened in Benue a while ago and lately Zamfara. You know, we see it's coming a norm. People are just coming and, you know, and I would like to believe that there should be, if there is no collusion, then it's clearly a case of some people looking away. You understand? And that's corruption. You understand? They're not doing what they should be doing, you know, for whatever reason. You get, and it's on the rise. You know, I really feel that, you know, we should, the security apparatus should review their operations and actively find ways to nip this in the bud, because people are dying daily and it's very sad.
The Kaduna State government has announced the imposition of a 24-hour curfew on Kajuru local government area of the state. The curfew comes on heels of a rumor that a fresh crisis is imminent in Kasuan Magani community, one of the crisis-prone areas in the council. A short statement issued by the spokesman for the Kaduna State government, Samuel Aruwan, quotes the state's deputy governor, Bala Bantex, as directing vigorous enforcement of the curfew and also urging citizens to comply and support peace efforts in the community. Kajuru local government area has been in the news in the last 2 years for the wrong reasons, especially due to incessant conflicts that have claimed several lives and property worth millions of naira. President Muhammadu Buhari on Thursday took off from Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, where he had earlier inaugurated some projects to embark on a 10-day private visit to the United Kingdom. Buhari's trip to the UK has elicited mixed reactions amongst Nigerians. Olawale Amusa, who spoke earlier on our newspaper review program, Off the Press, also reacted to his private visit.
Well, as much as President Buhari has a right to, you know, engage or travel wherever he deems fit, for the fact that he is the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the right he has the right as a private citizen to do what he wants, but he has but he owes us a duty as our president and as a nation to inform us. You understand? So on this, I'll lay the blame on his media handlers.
But he did inform.
Yes, but you can't tell us for a private visit. You understand?
Yeah.
You have a duty to tell us. I think we should be a bit more accountable as a nation. I'm going for a medical checkup. All well and good. I'm going for a visit. I need a retreat, time out to brainstorm about my next set of appointees. Nobody will begrudge him that. But telling us a private visit, funded by taxpayers' money. You understand? That is giving us Nigerians the short end of the stick. And I think it's really not so good. And like I said, I lay the blame on his handlers. I remember clearly during President Yar'Adua's regime, when he was out for a long while because of medical health, then General Buhari, criticized the president and actually called for his impeachment. You understand? So for me, this marks as a bit of double speak, But like you said, if it's really about, we should be more sensitive, you understand, about the feelings of the people that voted you. If really, respect our sensibilities. You can't tell us you're going for a private visit. This is what I want to do, or, okay, I've embarked on XYZ number of visits throughout my 4-year tenure. Please, please come and attend to me at home, or visit a medical facility here in Nigeria. My point really is just that we deserve better. Okay. And this brings me to, if we're students of history, I remember, I think it was President Roosevelt. Okay. President Roosevelt, who I think he developed polio, so he actually had problems walking throughout his presidency. He had to walk with braces. The nation understood that their president was first and foremost a human being. You understand? And they understood that he had his challenges. But was that going to affect his ability to deliver? Definitely not. So they gave him the necessary support. I believe that these people should come out and let us know what exactly we're managing. Till today, we don't know what ailments the president had. We thank God that after that long trip, when he got back, he was seemingly much stronger. But I think it's only fair, that as a people, we shouldn't be despised. It's not only when you need our votes that you come to us. Let us know what you are facing. Nigerians are very religious people. We'll pray for you.
We'll even offer you support, like you were saying in the US.
Yes, now.
And it's not just the US alone. I think even in the UK, when Winston Churchill was Prime Minister, he had some medical issues, and he had
Be open about it.
The People's Democratic Party, PDP, has accused the All Progressives Congress, APC, of using the police to intimidate the school principal that issued Senator Ademola Adeleke's results. The National Publicity Secretary of the PDP, Kola Ologbodinyo, spoke to newsmen in Abuja, saying several family members of the principal have also been detained by police without any charge. Ologbodinyo is calling on the police to release those unlawfully detained immediately.
The Nigerian police, in collaboration with the APC, against arrested Mr. Abbas, the principal of the Ede Muslim High School, Ede, as well as the wife of the school's registrar, Mrs. Rofiyat Oladepo, and her 9-month-old baby. Information available to the PDP shows that AIG Adeleye Oyebade of Zone 2 Osogbo ordered the arrest of the innocent principal of the school and the registrar. When the registrar, Mr. Kabir Oladipo, could not be reached as he is undergoing treatment for legs and arms injuries, which he sustained in a motor accident, AIG Oyebade allegedly ordered one ASP Faliu to arrest his wife, Mrs. Rofiyat Oladipo, with a 9-month-old baby. Both the innocent mother and her baby were dumped at Zone 2 Police Headquarters in Osogbo, even as we speak. It is clear that there is no way a school principal who duly signed and issued a school testimonial under his own hand and position can be said to have forged the same testimonial. The PDP therefore calls on the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Adam Mohammed, to call his men to order on issues related to Senator Adeleke's determination to retrieve his governorship mandate, which was stolen by the All Progressives Congress. While the PDP also urges the IGP to order the immediate release of the innocent school principal, the wife of the school registrar, her baby of 9 months. Our party also counsels the APC and their allies to end their schemes against Senator Adeleke, as they will all come to naught in the face of justice and the will of the people of Osun State.
Human rights lawyer and senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, has said he is planning to write to the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, to demand answers on why the President Muhammadu Buhari-led federal government has been disobeying court orders. The activist lawyer said he recalled that even when Buhari ruled the country in the 80s as a military dictator, orders of court were never disobeyed. Falana said this in Lagos on Thursday during the public lecture marking marking the 30th anniversary of the Committee for the Defense of Human Rights. The lecture with the theme Chronicling the Struggle, Identifying the Way Forward was delivered by a professor of international law and jurisprudence, Akin Oyeboye, while Professor Julius Honver of the Ford Foundation was the keynote speaker. Speaking in his capacity as the chairman of the CDHR Board of Trustees, Falana said the struggle for the respect of human rights in the country had made a lot of gains in the last 30 years. The National Universities Commission has frowned at the low engagement of universities across the country in research and development. The Executive Secretary of the NUC, Professor Abubakar Rashid, at a session with directors of research of tertiary institutions nationwide, says this has affected the rating of Nigerian universities globally and the quality of products from the institutions. Professor Rashid says that tertiary institutions must engage in research like their counterparts worldwide.
Research across the Nigerian university system is still characterized by low tenure and lack of vigor. Many factors have been fingered out as being responsible for this, such as poor funding, low morale of researchers, lack of motivation, and so on. But even where meaningful and relevant research endeavors have been undertaken, low uptake of research outputs by industries has remained a daunting challenge. Nigeria must begin the process of consciously turning some of our universities into research-intensive universities, or take necessary steps to put research on the front burner of their activities, so that they may take their rightful place as leaders in the knowledge generation industry with impactful, problem-solving research findings and innovation which will add tangible value to the lives of the ordinary citizens of our nation. Universities must be in the lead in terms of creating a robust national innovation system for Nigeria in collaboration with other knowledge creation centers and industry.
And it's time to take a quick break now. Stay tuned for more news when we return. The Directorate of Criminal Investigations has summoned the Kiadando East legislator Robert Kyagulanyi alias Bobby Wine to report at their headquarters, Kibuli, today. In summons signed by the Deputy Director of CID, Joseph Obwona, police allege that Bobby Wine incited violence and held unlawful assembly on Easter Monday. On Wednesday, the State Minister for Internal Affairs, Obiga Kanya, told Parliament that Bobby Wine was confined at his home at Magere Kasanganti because of criminal cases against him, but he was able to leave his home on Thursday after police officers withdrew. The organizers of the protest that drove Sudan's President Omar al-Bashir from power are delaying the announcement of a transitional civilian government as they hold new negotiations with a ruling military council. The protesters suspended talks with the military last weekend, saying key figures in the council were too close to al-Bashir. But on Wednesday, they resumed negotiations and 3 members of the council resigned from their posts, apparently in response to the protesters' demands. The Sudanese Professionals Associations, which spearheaded the protest, had planned to announce a transitional civilian government at a mass rally on Thursday. But Ahmed Rabi, a senior member of the group, says it will delay the announcement and instead focus on forming different committees to hold talks with the military. In barely 3 days after a huge hit on the French island, Cyclone Kenneth smacked northern Mozambique, a country still crawling out of another huge storm. The cyclone has brought 220 kilometers per hour, 140 meters per hour winds and has already killed 3 people in Comoros. Authorities said 30,000 people had been evacuated from areas likely to be hit. Mozambique's National Institute of Disaster Management said that about 682,500 people could be at risk from the storm in the northern Cabo Delgado and Niassa provinces. And the news continues after the short break.
seek their dream. Throb with desire. Joy welled up in their hearts. A brand new life adventure is about to begin. Create a life for someone new. Nigerians in China on StarTimes Da Donkoa.
Sri Lanka's top police official, Inspector General of Police Pujit Jayasundara, has resigned over failures that led to the deadly Easter bomb attacks, the country's president said on Friday. President Maithripala Sirisena told reporters that the IGP has resigned and he'll nominate a new IGP soon. Sirisena's nominee has to be confirmed by a constitutional council. The resignation comes after the country's top defense ministry official, Defense Secretary Hemasiri Fernando, resigned on Thursday. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un departed Vladivostok in the Russian Far East on Friday, April the 26th, after a two-day visit and a historic summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin. On the second day of his visit, Kim laid flowers at a Russian Navy memorial and had lunch with the governor of Primorye region, Oleg Kozhemyaka, in the same restaurant where his late father, Kim Jong II, ate last time he visited Russia in 2011. After the final greeting by Russian honor guard, Kim got into his armored train and left for North Korea. At the first major news conference of his presidency, President Emmanuel Macron pledged tax cuts as he outlined his response to months of anti-government protests that have challenged his authority. Macron pledged to cut taxes in a bid to restore calm on Thursday, the 25th of April, outlining a broad new policy push shaped by nearly 6 months of anti-government yellow vest protests. Marches began over fuel tax hikes, but soon spiraled into a broader backlash, decrying what they see as political establishment elitism and expressing anger over high living costs.
I think the current and the slated transformations in our country should not be stopped because they answer deeply to the feelings of our fellow citizens. They may not have been implemented quickly enough for some, not radical enough, not human enough, but I think sincerely that the directions taken in these first 2 years, in the eyes of many, were right.
Rod Rosenstein, the U.S. Deputy Attorney General who appointed a special counsel to investigate possible ties between Russia and President Donald Trump's campaign, on Thursday, the 25th of April, defended his role in the probe. Rosenstein, the number 2 official at the Justice Department in May 2017, named special counsel Robert Mueller to investigate ties between Trump's 2016 presidential election campaign and Moscow and had overseen the investigation since.
Hearing in March of 2017, a Republican senator asked me to make a commitment. He said, "You're going to be in charge of this Russia investigation. I want you to look me in the eye and tell me that you'll do it right, that you'll take it to its conclusion, and you will report your results to the American people." Now, I did pledge to do it right and to take it to the appropriate conclusion. I did not promise to report all results to the public because, as my fellow U.S. attorneys know well, grand jury investigations are ex parte proceedings. It's not our job to render conclusive factual findings. We just decide whether it's appropriate to file criminal charges. That is our job. Now, some critical decisions about that Russia investigation were made before I got there. The previous administration chose not to publicize the full story about Russian computer hackers and social media trolls and how they relate to Russia's broader strategy to undermine America. The FBI disclosed classified information about that investigation to selected lawmakers and their staffers. Someone selectively leaked information to the news media. The FBI director disclosed at a congressional hearing that there was a counterintelligence investigation that might result in criminal charges. And then the former FBI director alleged that the president pressured him to close the investigation, and the president denied that that conversation occurred. So that happened.
Up next is our business news. And in business, according to the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, the country seeks to increase the nation's crude oil reserves to 40 billion barrels and production capacity to 4 million barrels per day by 2025. This was made known by the Group Managing Director, NNPC, Dr. Mekanti Baru, on Thursday, who indicated the corporation was seeking to attract necessary funding from the capital markets for the development of the nation's oil and gas resources. In his address on the state of the industry, titled Moving Nigeria Towards Energy Self-Sufficiency, Baru said there is increasing global competition on Nigerian crude oil due to the rise of new production centers across the globe, particularly in Africa and Argentina. On this note, he said Nigeria therefore needs to unlock new barrels as quickly as possible to stay relevant in the new emerging world. Baru stated that the evolving new funding mechanisms for the joint venture operations was part of the focus of the reforms undertaken by the government to eliminate the difficult cash call regime, enhance the efficiency of the management of oil and gas resources, and guarantee growth. Still ahead on Plus TV Africa News is our roundup on entertainment and sports news. We'll be back in a moment. In entertainment, in honor of National Poetry Month, the estate of Tupac Shakur has announced a poetry competition in honor of the late rapper's love for the art form. Participants are being asked to submit their very own original poem that addresses how Tupac inspired them. The authors of the best poems that adhere to the competition's guidelines will win an exclusive bundle of merchandise inspired by the hip-hop legend's poetry. Tupac Shakur was an American rapper, writer, and actor who is considered by many to be one of the greatest rappers of all time. And that's it on entertainment. Coming up next is the very best in sports, coming up right after this. In sports, Nigeria have secured a place at the 2019 Beach Volleyball World Championship taking place in Germany in June by recording a 2-0 quarter-final victory over Niger Republic in the female category at the ongoing Africa Beach Volleyball Cup Seniors in Abuja. The national team coach of the Nigerian volleyball team, Francis Umodo, commended the girls on their victory, saying that securing a World Cup berth was as important as winning the championship. President of the Nigeria Volleyball Federation, Musa Nimrod, said leveraging on home support in order to qualify for the World Cup was one of the rationales behind Nigeria hosting the African Cup Seniors. However, it wasn't all good news for Nigeria as the male team fell in the quarterfinals to the top-ranked Mozambique male team 2-0 on Thursday. Imudo said the men lost to a formidable opponent and praised their efforts against Africa's #1 ranked team. That's it on sports, and also that's it on our news roundup of events at this hour. For more news updates, do follow us at Plus TV Africa on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube page at Plus TV Africa. We'll be back later with more stories making the headlines. Do join us then. I'm Tokumbo Taiwo saying good afternoon.
Politics has helped shape the decision of the polity from conspiracy theories to good old-fashioned comic politics.
These are the results of tomorrow's election. Okay, you have it already, have you?
I think we've done very well in the very difficult circumstances in which we took over governance.
Plus, politics will fill the pulse of the country, from friends to frenemies, even strange bedfellows to clones and stooges. We go beyond the rhetorics and the drama to analyze the story behind the story.
Let anybody come and say!
The perception in itself does more harm than actual corruption that you have.
Plus Politics, not just another political show. It's about putting you, the citizens, in the know.
Hey, what's up, guys? You're welcome to another edition of Plus Event, and I remain your host, Ifeoluwa Oshukeye. Your absence isn't an excuse anymore, as Plus Events is all you need, as we bring you the glitz, the glamour, and loads of fun.
Oh, definitely. Like, no question. He's a living legend.
Oh, God forbid, Holy Ghost fire, I know.
I just want to be blown away. I want to be wild.
This is 11 years of doing it.
I'm surrounded by so much positivity.
No, it's okay.
Yo, what's up, my people? It's your boy Starboy Terry. You're watching
Plus Event on Plus TV.
Stay glued to Plus TV Africa every Saturday and Sunday, 4:30 p.m. West African time.
Olajumoke Adenawa is a renowned architect, entrepreneur, radio host, and philanthropist. She is the founder and principal partner of the Elite AD Consulting Architecture and Interior Design firm headquartered in Lagos, Nigeria. She had an early education kickoff as she was admitted into Obafemi Awolowo University at age 14, where she obtained her BSc and MSc in architecture. She's also an alumnus of Yale School of Management, Lagos Business School, and IESE Business School in Spain. She began her career as an architect in Tauri Coker Associates and moved to Femi Majekudumi Associates, a leading design firm in Lagos, where she had the opportunity to work on the Federal Ministry of Finance project in Abuja at age 23. At age 26, she founded AD Consulting. CNN described her as Africa's starchitect, and The Guardian also described her as the face of architecture in Nigeria. She has taken up projects from Coca-Cola and L'Oreal, to list a few. She was a recipient of the International Alliance for Women World of Different 100 Award and was also featured in the Who is Who in the 21st Century by the International Biographical Center in Cambridge, amongst other awards. She is the founder of Awesome Treasures Foundation, a faith-based NGO. She is happily married to Olu Korede and has 2 sons. And that is the mogul in 90 seconds.
Hello and welcome to Tea Time, where we bring you some of the most exciting entertainment stories ever. I'm Tokumbo Taiwo and I'm here with Elsie Godwin, Ife Oshunkaye, and today we have a new co-anchor. She's from Edo State and recently came into Nigeria from Australia after having lived in South Africa for some time. And to make matters more interesting, she also bears the name Ife. Let's make welcome Lady Ife Omai. Hi.
Hi. Thank you for having me. Hi. Hello.
Okay.
Good to be on the show.
Good. So tell us a little bit about, your experiences in Australia or South Africa, or, just a one-liner. We haven't got enough time.
It's definitely a good exposure. I mean, traveling is always good exposure. I enjoyed it, definitely. But there's no place like home, I have to say. But you can learn some bits and come and carry back home so we can also
Wow. And are you looking forward to having some tea?
Definitely. I can't wait. Please, let's get to it.
Okay. All right, let's get right into it. So yesterday, we brought you news on Black China regarding gaining acceptance into Harvard. The latest twist to that story is that Harvard has actually denied accepting Black China into its business school online. So
I think we should do this.
We should do this? Why? No, let me dance on your head first before we do this. Let me dance.
Why do you want to? Why do you want to dance?
What, you don't know the latest dance steps?
Have you seen Tokumbo's?
Exactly. She has no clue what I can do. She's judging a book by a cover.
I think this is
Shaku.
It's throwing back the whole. I said something about a new movement, having to see some of these women that are famous for almost nothing, trying to do things that are intellectually.
She mean famous for almost nothing, though. That's very rude.
I was to say because she was a model, a former stripper,
could have just said
she's an entrepreneur.
They smell nice. You could have just said that.
Oh, wow.
Or they use white delicious. Elsie, carry on, please.
Please, I have finished.
Exactly.
So I was just saying that it is good to see them moving into career lines or doing things that, like Tokumbo would say, intellectually taxing, right? So, but this is...
I mean,
we just have
it's really disappointing. When I saw it online, the first thing that came to my mind was like, Basbos. Yeah. Like, it's one of those things where already you have a bad reputation. I'm going to be honest, like the way Elsie was, like, you are known for nothing. You had a TV show and you're stripping or whatever. Like, yeah.
She just said it smell nice.
But what we mean is that what we mean is that your popularity isn't based off talents. Like, usually you get on screen for.
She was a model. Former stripper.
And a video
to
vixen.
pose in front of a camera is not really.
No, we're serious right now.
Hardcore talent in the books of arts. Anyone could do that. So I guess it's just really. I don't know why. I read somewhere that the PR actually came to her for this idea, saying that, how about we make you into an online, business Harvard, whatever. And she actually then liked the idea and wanted to personalize it, which sounds kind of crazy because you could have just said that,
exactly from the get-go.
So are we saying they forged the letter now?
They
did. It's fake. Some blogs.
You guys are not getting this yet.
Oh, okay.
There's this new thing going on. I think a lot of people got motivated after Josie, man. When you stage your own attack and then you become famous, for the wrong reason.
How would you even relate this to
Wait,
so I'm getting.
Can you just let me land?
Land, because I think sitting in between two ladies is doing your body.
What's claws out.
Go ahead.
Coming from a lady that is trying to drag other women down.
But we're not dragging.
He's
all good. Can you just let me land? Now, why I said they're being motivated or they're being inspired by Josie is because recently we had the case of Josie who staged his own attack, right? It has also been alleged, recently, bam, 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 you're my dear friend, I love you, but your fans are denying that they contributed a car and it was all staged, or they contributed to buy a car.
Wow.
And it was all staged. Wow. Now, that's another thing. That's actually going on in Nigeria. Now, this is a Black China thing, and they're also denying that they granted the admission. I can't remember the person. E-Money as well said he got a PhD from Unilag, and Unilag posted a denial statement saying that we never gave E-Money any honorary degree to be a doctor or whatever. So I'm saying a lot of people are being inspired by this staging stuff. And right now she's in the news. We're talking about her.
Exactly.
Simi was in the news recently talking about Yahoo Boys, Yahoo Boys. She dropped the album. We're all listening to that album. Now, Naira Marley, who knows if all these things are being staged? Naira Marley and Simi, Naira Marley has dropped Am I a Yahoo Boy? And that's a song that's blowing up as well. So I think this is a way to help your craft right now. If you know how to stage it properly.
I guess at the end of the day, we're in such a shallow era that everything has to do with packaging. Nah, I think social media has kind of made it worse. That very quick success, like overnight success. So I guess, fake it till you make it. So if Kim is, and I remember watching the show yesterday, and you were saying something about trying to compare them to Kim Kardashian, and I was thinking absolutely. Like, I think being close to that family, she was once upon a time your sister-in-law or boyfriend-in-law, whatever you want to call it. there's some kind of like comparison, because she wasn't married to Rob, right? There must have been some kind of comparison, like this girl, she's also doing, and Kim started the same way, like, it's not like she's you know, so it's like if she can do it, you know.
So can I.
Exactly, so can I. So fake it till you make it. I just didn't think she played the cards right with social media. We can also have access to.
Yeah. All right, I think we said it.
Elsie, do you get my point now?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Okay, you know what? Yes, let's move on. Okay, before we go on a break, let's quickly talk about Elsie's program, which is showing at 12:30 later today. Yes, Tonto DK. I can't even. Yes, exactly. You know what? Instead of me
part
talking
of the interview are you looking forward to?
Before I even talk about it, let's quickly take a look at the clip that we have on Elsie interviewing Tonto DK. Take a look.
I always type in tongues. It's not a new thing anymore.
Yeah,
I speak in tongues. I'm born again.
I understand speaking in tongues, but typing in tongues.
Yes, you can, as long as you can rap in. The worldly people, they rap, right? Why you guys write it, right? Okay. So I can speak in tongues.
So you brought up Bobrisky. You're close with Bobrisky.
He's a friend.
Okay, so how is that friendship working out?
He's a friend. It's good friendship.
How deep would you say this piracy issue has gone?
It's so deep that the truth is that the same producers, the same directors, the same marketers are the ones who are also actually pirating the cities. You see, there's a time I overheard a conversation. I didn't know what was going on. I'm not the business side of Nollywood. I don't really care much about it. But I did hear a conversation once between things like this. The producer was like, you know what, instead of them to go and pirate my own movie, let me go and pirate it myself and put it in the market so that if they're not buying the original, they're buying the pirated. We're killing ourselves. We're all fighting for the same thing. It's a circle. We share the same men, the same clothes, the same movies, the same things. So it's a cycle. Why would you want to be friends with someone who wants your life? I'm a woman now. I was a girl before. I have a child. I have businesses. I have over 30 staffs. I have over 3,700 children I pay school fees for. Looking at my journey so far, the only thing that I've done differently was pick a better husband. Pick a better, no, not a better husband. Pick a better father for my son.
Okay, so
you first said the last part hit her hard.
No, it did.
It did?
Yeah.
Picking a better father for her husband.
Because you're a grown woman, you can handle a heartbreak, but your poor kid. I think every woman will be able to resonate with that. Like, they're stuck with the crappy father for the rest of their lives.
Okay. Yes. So Elsie, you were asking,
what part of the interview you're looking forward to?
Yes.
Understanding her angle.
Talking more about, I want to hear what she said about her husband, more info, and the marriage and her journey from being a girl to
a woman.
So all of that.
I'll try not to spill.
You try not to spill.
I think
Elsie, give us some spoilers.
We may likely have a guest this afternoon, telling us about another interview where she actually showed us court document and she spoke about a lot of things. I'm totally looking forward to that.
Me too.
Okay, on that note, we're going to take a quick break. When we return, we'll have more entertainment stories. So that's all taking place right after this break.
Politics has helped shape the decision of the polity, from conspiracy theories to good old-fashioned comic politics.
These are the results of tomorrow's election. Okay, you have it already, have you?
I think we've done very well in the very difficult circumstances in which we took over governance.
Plus, politics will fill the polls of the country, from friends to frenemies, even strange bedfellows, to clones and stooges. We go beyond the rhetorics and the drama to analyze the story behind the story.
Let anybody come and say!
The perception in itself does more harm than actual corruption that you have.
Plus Politics, not just another political show. It's about putting you, the citizens, in the know.
Hey, what's up, guys? You're welcome to another edition of Plus Event, and I remain your host, Ifeoluwa Oshukeye.
Your absence isn't an excuse anymore, as Plus Events is all you need as we bring you the glitz, the glamour, and loads of fun.
Oh, definitely. Right, no question. He's a living legend.
Oh, God forbid, Holy Ghost fire, I know.
I just want to be blown away. I want to be wild. This is 11 years of doing it.
I'm surrounded by so much positivity.
No, it's okay.
Yo, what's up, my people? It's your boy Starboy Terry. You're watching
Plus Event on Plus TV.
Stay glued to Plus TV Africa every Saturday and Sunday, 4:30 p.m. West African time.
Welcome back. You're watching Tea Time, and it's time to move on to our next story. R. Kelly loses civil court case after missing a hearing. Okay, so let me come to you, Lady Ife.
Okay, R. Kelly. I feel bad for him. He's been in the spotlight for so long on media through legal battles of sexual assaults, and this is just yet another lady. I don't know if you've seen the documentary on R. Kelly, but there was a lot of women there. And it was interesting that this HW woman, reports have it that she wasn't in court.
Yes,
That she's not part of that. So I'm just imagining, you know, you have to, I don't want to, you know, be on any side because this hasn't been obviously proven yet. So, but I don't know if this is like a domino effect that everyone is jumping on board saying that he's done something, that she's also coming up to say that, you know, he's done something to her. 1990 is a long time. That was 20 years ago. She's 36 now.
You think she shouldn't have brought it up?
Of course she should have brought it up. Why not? If that is true, he needs to pay for...
saying it was so long ago.
Yes, and I don't know why the motivation is now. I don't know if and that's what makes
what she
it
means by the domino
like
effect.
speculating that are you just jumping on board because it's a trending thing now?
Like the Me Too movement.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole point of what the Me Too movement was about, to be honest, is that people can now finally speak up. Maybe back then, you know, it wasn't something that a woman could say, like, oh, I've been assaulted, blah, blah, blah. So I'm just saying there could be weed in the goodness of this Me Too movement, and we now have to be careful that we don't, you know, call him out on something that he actually hasn't done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Sir.
Oh, sorry, sir.
Okay, so R. Kelly, we've been back and forth on this case. His legal troubles, legal drama, but everything has still been alleged. He is still innocent until proven guilty, right? Even though all fingers may seem to be pointing towards the direction of him being guilty, based on the documentary, Surviving R. Kelly, yes. So,
Michael Jackson.
You know, same thing, same potato. Exactly.
But I mean, if these men are actually doing what they're saying that they're doing, they need to pay for it.
No, that's certainty, and this is like the law of karma.
Yeah.
Like, if you're actually guilty, the law of karma will.
Do you know my only beef with this Me Too movement is that it only seems, I know I'm trying to spin racial slurs on it here, but it only seems to be catching the black men.
Oh, come on.
No.
It's
What
not
about Harvey
men.
Weinstein?
Exactly, and so many other men actually before that. You know what? Before we even go
What
there,
about
I
the
want
guy
to
that
hear
was
from
accused
Elsie.
by rap?
Let me quickly hear from
Okay,
Elsie.
for me, I mean, for this one, he has lost it, so we can say he's guilty on this.
No, not
particular
completely.
case.
If he has a lawyer
Yeah, he didn't
that
turn
gets
up.
involved in the case right now,
And-
he hasn't lost the case.
I don't understand.
But he's already lost the civil lawsuit on not showing up.
it's
But he hasn't been
not
proven
showing
guilty.
up, but if a lawyer gets involved, if he remains silent, then maybe he would be held liable. But if a lawyer gets involved, like right now, it would still be negotiable.
So the part that says the judge will determine how much Kelly should pay in damages next month. Is it damages for not showing up or?
Yeah, for not showing up.
Well, I mean, there's probably also
You're wasting
personal-
court time and resources. You have to pay for damages for not showing up. You're
to the girl,
Girl
not
cut
to...
to the girl.
No, but if a lawyer should get involved, that's why I said if a
Okay.
lawyer should get involved right now, and they also, because she's just about to put out evidence against him that,
Yeah.
okay, this was what he did. So if a lawyer should get involved and debunk all those evidence and have and can prove beyond reasonable doubt that the evidence she's bringing right now is false, then it still has a chance. So we shouldn't bring the man down.
Well, I was going to point at that. If that compensation was to go to her, in my mind, I feel like if we're really fighting this sexual harassment and assault, then it should be jail time, not compensation. You know, so yes.
No, regardless of that, she still needs her own compensation at the end of the day.
Emotional damage.
Yeah, but then whatever they decide to compensate her on, that is not my major concern. If you did this, then jail time should be worth.
Yeah, that one will eventually sort itself out. So if he's guilty, he would
pay the price.
Exactly, for the rest of his life.
If you can do the crime,
that's the thing.
Then you can do the time.
Exactly. So, you have more to say on this before we move on? Final thoughts?
Yeah,
summarize.
I'm good. If you're touching women without their permissions or they are minors, just go to jail. We don't need that in society. That's my final say on that.
If you're touching women without their permission.
Well, he hasn't. Okay. It's like I sense that you've already judged him before even.
Oh, of course. I mean, I have.
Exactly.
Especially after the documentary.
Exactly.
And all that he exists.
Because like it has influence. You don't give them that power.
No.
Yes.
Okay.
So are you saying Michael Jackson is guilty?
Exactly. Michael Jackson has 2 men.
Yeah.
2 men.
Yes.
Claiming that he assaulted them when they were kids.
Yeah.
We have more than 40 women.
Okay, so
on R. Kelly.
Oh, wait, hold on. So you have committed one sin and you've done 20.
No, I'm
Does
just
that make
saying
me a better
one time
man?
is your mistake.
It doesn't make me a better man.
1 time is your mistake, 4 times is your character.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Enough said. Our next story is on Ghanaian actress Hailey Sumney, who warns Nigerians not to affect Ghana with Yahoo. Let me quickly go on to Ife. You know I'm going to come on to you because
but
I don't know.
But she needs to just sit down, though.
Yes. Elsie, let's Ife say, because I don't know. You see, the reason why I'm coming to Ife first is I don't know if...
because, I mean, we saw a documentary recently
about
and they were dumb enough to go and show their face and show their deals.
And now they actually scam women and they were arrested. Yeah. I don't know if you guys saw
okay,
that.
So Ife, what I wanted to ask is if you know Hailey, you know, when you were in Ghana, if you knew her...
Hailey is an emerging...
actress,
so she's not even like a big deal.
She was actually not even based in Africa.
I only know the big deals, you know.
From what I know, because from what I know is that she was actually a nurse in America or something. And sounds like a rich kid because then her parents literally created a TV station for her and gave her a program and all of that stuff. So
I don't think she's a self-made?
Nah.
No, but you don't have to be self-made to talk about Yahoo
of
because
course.
we've seen a lot of rich kids that is still into internet fraud. That you know they really do not need to do internet fraud for them to be...
but this is not about rich kid or no rich kid. I mean, she's not even saying it is wrong or right. I mean, we all know it is wrong, but she's trying to say Nigerians are going to influence Ghanaians.
As if they don't do it in Ghana.
And you're already saying that.
And we are saying, no, you guys do it already.
Exactly.
So don't try.
I think that's the biggest problem.
You know what, let me hear from someone who has actually lived in Ghana. Do they do it? Yeah, so that we know for a fact before we even
so I'm going to put it this way. Internet fraud is everywhere. Even in America. It's everywhere. Even when you do the tax evasion thing, it's still fraud. You get, so it's done everywhere. So in Ghana, yes, people do it in Ghana.
So you see,
but wait, why they feel lots of Nigerians do it more is because of our extravagant type of lifestyle. Now, you will see a Nigerian boy that has just $100 in his pocket. But the way he would spend that $100 in a Ghanaian club, you would think he has like $1 million in his bag.
I probably would like feel to disagree.
Much more rampant.
Because I think Yahoo boys, the whole idea that you make money without working for it, all of them have the same similarities where they spend it.
Ghana boys are stingy.
Majority. And also, apart from that, I think one thing that puts us in a disadvantage is our population. If 10% of Ghanaians are doing fraud and 10% of Nigerians are doing fraud, 10% of Ghanaians is 32 million or whatever. 10% of Nigeria is 200 million. So our 10% is a lot more. So it looks blown out of proportion because we're a lot in comparison to Ghana.
Aside that, now coming from somebody that has actually lived there.
By the way, I've lived in Ghana for a year.
I've lived in Ghana for 5 years.
Okay, all right, I'm just saying. I was was in Accra for a year.
5
But let's
years,
go. Okay.
actually.
It's not a competition.
Yeah, I know. I'm just telling you.
Elsie, what do you have to say, please?
Let's just watch the Ghanaians.
Let's watch the Ghanaians. Go ahead.
So, at the end of the day, the way Nigerians live their life over there is totally different. So, people tend to look at every successful Nigerian man as a fraudster, or you have an oil well at your backyard. Like, everybody's, as long as you're Nigerian, you're rich. Now, that's the perception they all have. But if you look at it, it's done in Ghana. We can call names. There was a very popular Ghanaian guy that ran mad recently that was shooting in his own home because he was seeing some spirits, and they said he was doing juju to get the whole... So it happens in Ghana, it happens everywhere. Do you understand? So at the end of the day, if you're trying to say, oh no, the population of Nigerians doing fraud in Ghana, I ain't gonna lie to you, is way more than the Ghanaians, because the security system, you don't go around and then you get SARS officials, so they get to move around with their laptops, they get to do whatever they want, they have 24 hours light, they have this. Like we saw the video of the policeman trying to get into some Nigerian boys claiming they were fraud boys and all of that. And like Elsie said about the documentary as well. So trust me, it's happening in Ghana, but because of our lifestyle, it makes it look worse.
All right, we're leaving that story there because we need to go on a quick break. When we come back, it'll be time for a more celebrity drama. Stay right here.
First point of accountability is asking questions.
Hello and welcome to Plus Sports and Plus TV Africa. I am Udoka Njoko.
Hi everyone, welcome to Plus Training.
You cannot continue to recycle poverty while you're spending a lot of money on unproductive ventures.
The government has to feel the impact.
Honorable Commissioner, sir, welcome to the show.
That's the Brazilian who, with the longer blades that Austria wasn't too impressed with. 200 metres, but we must stress, absolutely legal.
Sounds of the surf.
Yeah. Now that he's a hater, I don't want no bad energy. Man get used by radar, can't see my enemy.
And this time they are away, and Peacock goes away strongly.
She wants a man from London, she wants a fellow with felonies. That's probably my team. There's no I in it, I bring it on my team. That's when they saw my team. Even the bouncers bounce when they saw my team. You do wanna never know. Don't be a sheep when you can be bold. Great discipline time and you never know. Don't show up to my show.
This is
God
absolutely marvellous.
Welcome back. We're swiftly moving on to our next story. Bold Pink mocks actor Ike Ogbonna after a 7-day ultimatum expired. And Burna Boy says, if anything happens to Bold Pink, I have nothing to do with it. Elsie, I want to come on to you first.
Yeah, I love that disclaimer. I mean, she's stepping on so many people's toes. So when they decide to come after her, they won't say it's the guy with the tattoo and the one that smoke. I mean, we know how to profile people by how you think they look.
Especially
and all
with
that.
Burna Boy's experience with Mr. 2K.
Yeah, so I like that disclaimer. It was important. But then let's talk about what Bold Pink said about Burna Boy. What do you think, Ife?
About the
Well, I think, look, first of all, we're giving this Bold Pink lady too much attention.
I agree.
Yeah, because she's not even
She's a
that
wannabe,
relevant.
isn't she?
Number one, if she's even smart and intelligent and you have to even come on social media to talk about things or make very strong allegations against people, then you have to be smart and have all the information. All the while, Burna Boy came out to talk about his Coachella and his name printed in small fonts.
Yeah.
He never said, I'm not attending Coachella because you guys put my name like that. He never mentioned that. He was just upset and he's saying, I'm an African giant, like you guys can't put my name in small letters.
But that's what
that
she
was all
meant.
they were saying. No, but she was saying
she
you
took
said
it out
you
of
are not
proportion.
going. So why are you there? Why did you go? Do you understand?
But it seems like her blogging is about that, to exaggerate a
Things.
situation and go really bizarre.
No, let's not make it her blogging. I think that's just how her brain works, and she's bold enough to put it out there.
A brain? You
Yeah.
think she has a
I'm
brain?
trying to be.
I think Elsie is even nice. She thinks she has a brain.
Well, I think she is not a star. It's just she just needs to be.
Wannabe.
You can see that she doesn't have a lot of.
I think she has a
clout.
mouth.
Yeah.
But she doesn't have a brain.
You know when
She
you
just
have
talks.
bad attitude and then
She does have a
it
really
becomes
bad
your
attitude.
brand.
I think one of them actually need to make an example.
But do you know what I like about Burna Boy? Burna Boy doesn't just waste time. He just tells you that in case anything happens, even if it's involved, he's dropped the disclaimer. And we all know how crazy Burna Boy can be. Which is why I'm telling everybody, please leave Naira Marley alone. Naira Marley is a crazy man. Naira Marley has been in and out of jail in the UK.
But that doesn't mean he's above the law.
No, I'm not saying he's above the law. He's a crazy man. Just leave him alone because you don't know what these guys can be up to. Burna Boy has also had criminal cases in the UK before he came to Nigeria to become a superstar. He just recently got accepted back in the UK. So leave these guys alone. So I like the fact that he's putting the disclaimer out there. And I like the fact that this guy, what's his name? Ike Odona. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I said Ike Odona, sorry.
Okay, can we talk about that?
let's talk about
Ike Odona said he
why
has been
did he
sipping his
file
drink.
a suit against this girl and gave her 7 days to apologize and take it
He didn't
back?
file
And
a
now
suit.
he's
He
sipping.
just
But now
notified.
No, there was
not
a
sipping
legal
tea.
statement.
Yes, but it wasn't a suit. He
So
was
now,
like,
was
if
he
she
making a
doesn't.
bluff? Because
That's
7
what
days have passed.
she's calling his bluff now, based on him not reacting 7 days after. So that's the thing. He just notified her that, if, you do not make the apology or was it retract your statements, then within 7 days,
Yeah, and
blah,
then she
blah,
has
blah.
not. 7 days
Exactly.
has
passed. And that's what she's saying.
I don't know
What's the point?
why he did that. Like, why would you make that
you weren't
claim
going
if
to
you're not
He
going
has
to
been
back it up?
sipping his drink for
I
7 days.
beg
Don't you guys
you.
wait for the drink to set so let's see what happens.
Nah,
I
you
think he
should-
thought
yeah.
that bluff was going to make her jittery and
But
then
did you guys see what she did
apologize.
after she saw his post?
What did she do? The gun
She pulled
thing.
out a gun and then she was counting a bullet, counting a bullet,
Like
counting
7
a
days,
bullet.
don't
It's
finish.
crazy.
Yeah, so that's what I'm
We
saying.
shouldn't even be talking
Yeah,
about
we're
her. I
giving
feel
her
like
too
we're
much
giving
credit.
her
Too much, yes.
attention.
Yeah,
Moving
you know
on.
what? Next time, let's move on. We don't even want anything to do with her. What's her
Well,
name now?
it depends on
What's
who
her
she
name?
drives and
What's
how
her-
juicy it is.
What's her name?
Who's that? Who are we talking about?
Elsie, do you remember her name?
I don't know.
Let's ask Elsie, maybe Elsie.
What's the opposite of bold?
Oops.
Seeming pink.
Okay, let's see. Are we rounding up, or should we touch on something else, or what do we want to do?
What do you want to touch on?
What do you want
I mean, the most recent stuff is Taylor Swift has finally broken her silence. I'm got a new song called Me. Very self-centered, I must say, but that's the name. So people are really anticipating that. Taylor Swift is pretty big. Like, all her hits have... All her songs have always been
numerous awards, and we know from her all of her heartbreaks. But let's not go there. It's
And then
another-
Michael Madsen just lost a gig to $100,000
Okay,
because
guys.
of DUI charges.
And Elsie, what just happened? Or you're going to keep quiet? You know what? That's where we're going to wrap up on Tea Time this morning. Join us this afternoon for another exciting episode of the program. Until then, a big thank you to my co-anchors, both of the Affairs and Elsie, the entire production team, and our stylist, Curtis Empire and Liz Harrison. I'm Tokumbo Taiwo saying thanks for watching, and we'll see you later this afternoon.
President Muhammadu Buhari will dissolve the current federal cabinet on May 22 after presiding over a valedictory Federal Executive Council. Well, how well have the ministers fared so far? And also tonight, the recent allegations of academicians using ad hoc staff to compromise the integrity of the just concluded 2019 polls by Professor Jega. Is this a cause for concern? This is Plus Politics tonight, and I'm David Alabi. Now, in less than a few weeks, President Muhammadu Buhari will be dissolving the current federal cabinet. How well have the ministers fared so far? Because the success of the ministers is the success of the president and, in turn, the entire nation. Joining me now in our Lagos studio, we have Ambrose Boke, a political affairs analyst. Thank you very much for joining us. And we also have Steve Agiode, the Rules and Ethics Director of the Accountability, Candor and Transparent Network. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you. One of the biggest stories so far is whether or not the cabinet will be dissolved. But if going by all of the reports we've had so far, by May 22nd, we would have the cabinet dissolved. But let's start from the preceding elements. The start of the constitution of the ministers. 6 months down the line before the president decided to take action. Do you think he might likely make that same mistake again, saying is looking out for persons with integrity and consolidate on the efforts so far made? Your thoughts?
Well, I don't know whether there's any efforts being made so far, because the last 4 years has been it has been moribund. We have not moved forward. We have rather gone backwards. We lost 6 months dilly-dallying, no cabinet. And then they came in, they brought up, without the 6 months to throw up some new paradigms, some new faces. But what we saw was recycled old faces. And then it's so unfortunate that there are no super ministers. Unlike before, when you, at least you'll be able to mention ministers. But now, the ministers are just maybe around 3 or 4. You hear their names out of almost 40-something ministers. And then the amalgamation of the ministries by the current government, it befuddles me. Because, for example, the ministers were critical ministries that were merged into one and given to one man to run was the 8th or 9th wonder of the world. Because how can you, the critical areas where we have deficits, where we have infrastructural deficits.
Are you talking about power works and housing?
We're talking about works, we're talking about housing. These are critical areas where we have massive deficit. Yet you had the temerity to merge these critical ministries and give it to one, and made it one ministry and give it to one minister to run. And then you left other less important ministries to run on their own. So I think, first of all, they didn't get it right. As I always maintain, this government had no clear-cut policies. That I know of. No clear-cut.
Unimpressed. Totally.
I'm totally unimpressed. And then you left them 4 years down the line. Many of the ministers are not performing. And then we thought we'd have a rejig of the cabinet after 2 years. Nothing happened. Even those who were not functioning. And then there was all kinds of backwardness in the sectors. And then we left them till the 4 year running. And even at the expiration of 4 years, we are still talking about whether they will be dissolved or not. It's a shame of a nation, actually.
Steve, did you expect we would have seen some reshuffling, putting round pegs and round holes, having taken the 4 year time space, and between that area we should have seen and done assessments after the first year, second year, third year, and say, well, you're not functioning so well, and then that's why you have to be moved?
There's no doubt at all that there are some ministers that have not pulled their weight. I mean, there are some that even have a cartoonish orientation, like the sports minister. We know the sports minister is the minister for youth and sports, but he appears more like the minister for juveniles because of the way he dresses, the way he carries himself, and obviously has made no impact on sports. Then you go on to people like the health minister. The health ministry is in virtual shambles. The state of public hospitals, I mean, they are all in the sorry state. So there are ministers that ought to in fact, one of the failings of this administration is that it ran for 4 years without a rejig of ministers. I think that was a tragedy. I think it ought to have been obvious to the president that some ministers weren't pulling their weight. As for my good friend, Babatunde Fashola, the Minister of Power and Housing, I
forgot the works.
Okay, gentlemen, we're still going to go into all of those details. But now, President Muhammadu Buhari has said that he's going to do better this time around, consolidate on all of his efforts, whether or not you think there was any effort being made. But he says that this time around, we wouldn't have any delays. And we've had different calls from different quarters, from both the ruling as well as opposition, that the president's constitution of his cabinet has to be right on time, because any delay would mean a slow implementation of the efforts or the blueprints that is supposed to be followed. But really now, though, to what extent do you think the president would have taken cues from what happened last? Because he too has come out to say that, well, he noticed that there were some ministers that weren't working, and that is why we would have some changes here and there. So we're taking him on a clean slate. Do you think he deserves that chance?
I think one of the personal weakness of President Buhari is his penchant to not be comfortable with doing away with loyal people. Whether they are efficient or not. For him, loyalty comes first, not efficiency, for what I've seen from his body language. So even if you are loyal and you're not working, there's this tendency to leave the people, even though they are not loyal.
Political leaning is not a requirement here.
So, but that is what we are seeing. I mean, that is what we are seeing. That is the trend. And one of the failures of this government was also the inability to constitute boards of the parastatals. Till today, they have not been constituted. They're just cherry picking. And so the attempt they made in 2017 December to bring out some names that constituted the board. There were names of dead people flying over in the list. And so they withdrew that list. And so how were the ministers functioning? So that means the ministers were approving budgets beyond their constitutionally required capacity. Because some boards, the board is supposed to sit to approve some contracts, to approve some, and these things were being approved without the board. So it is a sorry state. It's really, really a sorry state.
Steve, do you think that we should have, there are so many people who have called for us to have more technocrats than rather politicians here?
Well, I think the basic problem is we have a need to represent the federal structure in setting up a cabinet. That means that combined with the fact that when we are a political party, and let's be real here. Real politics means you will definitely, anywhere in the world, bring people from your own party. So the combination of two things, having to have one person from each state as a minister, and then having to have them from your political party, was bound to create problems for any government. I think it's something we should look again at. The idea that we must have, say, 36 ministers, and that we must also have them coming from your political party. I think we should rethink it. The American cabinet is not more than 12. You get my point? These are things we should think about. Do we need a large and unwieldy cabinet with you paying so many, 36 people? Do you really need that? We also need to think of my cabinet. Do they only have to come from my political party?
Okay, before you move on, now, Ambrose as well, let's have your thought. Now, some have also said that, well, the president's appointment or the choice of the cabinet members is always lopsided, and people have said they've raised concerns over that. But now again, the president has said, in response to all of this back and forth with the National Assembly, he says that he wants to work this time around with people who are loyal to the vision of the party, who are ready to take the country to the next level. So do you still think we'll see that lopsidedness play out again?
Yeah, we'll see it again. Because as I've said, the president has just reiterated what I earlier said, that first of all, for him is loyalty. loyalty over competence.
No, he says to push the dream forward, so people he believes are capable.
Well, the people with him, he also believed they would push the dream forward. And what we have was loyalty, parochial interests against efficiency, period. And what we see is that they constitutionally required to pick ministers from each of the 36 states. But also, most of the appointments he made, he was accused of having his own parochial interest, nepotic interest more. When you go to the security architecture, the security apparatus, most of the heads are from the north. When you go to critical appointments that he made, that he was not constitutionally required to pick from different states, I am sure that if the constitution did not mandate him to pick from different states, probably would have had maybe 90% of the ministers from one side of the country. And so that is the problem. The problem is that Nigerians are blessed with human resources from every nook and cranny of the country. So be it within any state, you can get technocrats that can run any government from any state. Then when it comes to party, I mean, Obasanjo did it. That he even had to give people like Edwin, the late Edwin Mozoke, he gave him minister, went from the NPP. There was a time he gave people, Obala Ige was not in the party when he made him the minister for power. He was not in the party. He was an AD person then. Exactly. So if Obasanjo would have done that, then anybody could do it. So it doesn't mean that you must go. And truth to the president, when he won, he said he will run an inclusive government. Exactly. So what it means by inclusive government remains to be seen. So it is when he constitutes his new cabinet, we will actually see whether all this talk was washed.
Whether or not the talk was washed. Now, the president also asked for a comprehensive status report on all of the project policies and programs that have been implemented by the cabinet members from their respective ministries, departments and agencies. And just yesterday was the deadline. We are not privy to the reports that were made, but I think that should give the president an assessment, a fair enough assessment, whether or not they've ticked the right boxes. But now let's take a focus at three different areas. We'll be looking at agriculture, health, labor, as well as power works and house. And now these ministers, let's start with health. Professor Isaac Adewale, and coming into this form of being the Minister of Health, we still see that universal health care is similarly not present, out of pocket still relatively high. We are still seeing dilapidated states of primary health care and secondary, tertiary health care facilities in the country. We have this huge brain drain, medical practitioners leaving the country. We've not seen any increase in budgetary allocation going to health. Some have said that we should have no less than 15% of our budget allocation going to health. But on the average, people are saying that he's done pretty well. What do you think?
Which minister has done pretty well?
Minister of Health.
I don't know if those people say that the Minister of Health has done well, whether they're Nigerians who live in Nigeria. Yeah. I think it's begging the question to say the Minister of Health has done well. He might have done well as the Vice Chancellor of University of Ibadan, but as the Minister of Health, he has taken us backward. I remember his first major altercation was when he opened his mouth to say that if doctors could not practice, they should go and do farming. If there are no hospitals or something like that to run. There was a nasty statement he made some time ago that the doctors went up in arm. How can you say that doctors can go to focus on agriculture and do farming if they can't find a place that they can do residency? That must all doctors do residency. So in the last 1 year, I've spoken to like 7 or 8 young doctors who are medical doctors, new, are just 4 years or 5 years in practice. All of them are saving up money. You know what they want to do? Residency. They want to go outside the country, and they're not coming back. A lot of them are migrating. We are not even talking of the established, we're even talking of those who just got out from medical school and are just, starting. They are just saving up money after youth service. They are saving up money seriously to leave this country. And then we come again, just yesterday, the Minister of Labour reiterated the same thing. So I don't know what these ministers who give them data, most of these ministers in this cabinet are hollow.
And do you think his response towards all of the strikes from Jehosu as well as the Association of Resident Doctors?
It was his own failure, a failure to implement. Okay, look at the other time, the NHS, the issue of the NHS, the altercation between the Executive Secretary of the health scheme with the minister. It was a messy fight. So a lot of things have not gone well with this Minister of Health.
Well, some would say, before you go, now, Steve, some have also said that we've also seen a reduction looking at the child and mother mortality rate in the country, transmission of HIV and AIDS. We've seen much more vaccination within the country and a whole lot more. So
but for that, we would
have some successes.
We would really have to point to the efforts of Bill and Melinda Gates in that area. They've done a lot in that area. They've been investing much in this country. We won't ascribe that to the Minister of Health. When you want to judge a Minister of Health, you look at his primary concern, the teaching hospitals. What state are they in? I mean, are there anyone to go to Lut and still come back and say things are well? I mean, Lut has become a place where you go and the first thing they do, they give you malaria injections. Why? If you ask this, if you go there, you have cancer. The first thing they do, they give you malaria injection. They believe that definitely while there, you will have malaria. There are no nets. There are no nets. The toilets are in a terrible state. Services are terrible. I've had somebody who was in there for a while for treatment, and I know for a fact, and that is the premier hospital in Lagos here. Now, if you go to Ibadan, the Ibadan Teaching Hospital is in a sorry state. It's a sad thing when you realize that the teaching hospital in Ibadan was better off in 1959 than it is today.
So in your scorecard now, out of the 10, how would you rate it?
I would rate the Honorable Minister of Health at 4.
What about you, Ambrose?
Well, 3.
Okay, let's shift our focus now to agriculture.
Yes.
Now, so far we saw the Minister of Agriculture try to move ahead and then have Nigeria export yams, but we had the rejection of large quantities of tubers of yam, and that wasn't a good message coming back home. And then we also saw the Minister of Agriculture trying to push for a ban. Whether or not we've had a ban on rice importation, we still see the foreign brands there, and we still see our local farmers haven't yet produced what we need. And even if they've produced, the price is still high. What do you make of this performance?
The current Minister for Agriculture is an analog man trying to do agriculture in a digital age. So he's still applying the theatrics, the methodologies of the 1970s. He's an 80-something-year-old man, so I don't blame him. I blame the person who appointed him. Because he has nothing to offer to build on what Mr. Adesina, who was the immediate past Minister of Agriculture, left behind. Mr. Adesina was a young, savvy, he knows what is the current trend in agriculture. And he improved Nigerian agriculture and took it to a very high level.
But taking it to a high level, the Minister of Agriculture will tell you that rice, we now have more states producing rice.
Because it's not his effort. The efforts that we are reaping from are the efforts of Adesina. When he came, he has not built on anything. Nothing. Nada. He has not done anything because even Adesina was able to cut off the middle supply chain of fertilizer. He gave the people the farmers' phone. The phone they can communicate directly with the Ministry of Agriculture. He was able to enter a lot of partnership. The Fadama Rice Project started with him. He took it to the next level. A lot of things happened. But what is this minister doing? This minister is doing blame games. Yeah. The last time he said it was the importers that were the cause of rice. Rice, we cannot, Nigerian local production cannot, like rice production cannot even feed a quarter of Nigerians. I eat local rice in my house. For the past 3 times I wanted to buy it, I have to start driving downtown, around town to look for local rice.
17,000. How much do you buy yours?
Well, I didn't even see it. I had to go into a South African retail store to get rice. The way I used to get it in Alawusa, where there's a cooperative there that used to sell, it was nowhere to be found. Lagos collaborated with Tekebi and did a Higi Haga, according to my friend Obaimo. We didn't lake rice, we disappeared overnight, we didn't see it. So there will be imports because there's a deficit in the demand and supply chain. Nigerians, the rice we are producing cannot even feed a quarter of Nigerians. So there will be imports. So what the government is supposed to do? Increase local production capacity, give them all the incentive, cut, because you have to be subsidy. Chinese products, American food products, European food products are highly subsidized by their governments. That is the only way you can compete favorably in the international market. There's a high subsidy going on. In fact, it's a market war.
Let's talk about our arable land now, Steve. We have...
I would like to cut the Honorable Minister from slack because I I know a little of his history. He became a minister under the Shagari regime at a very young age. He was one of the more outstanding ministers at that time.
That would have expected much more.
Yes, he was one of the more honest ones. I remember he was taken to the transition to the military tribunals of that time, and he came out clean. One of the good things about this particular minister is you can see that he's putting in an honest shift. Maybe we may not be getting the traction we should, but I would rather put that in this minister's case on what resources are available to him. It is true that he's taken over from a star minister in the former Minister Adesina, but I think we should give him some credit for keeping the ball rolling. Like my colleague has said here, worldwide, food is a subsidy issue. To provide food for people, you need to have a level of subsidy. That needs to come from a cabinet level. The cabinet needs to come together with presidential authority to decide on those kind of things, because those things, how do you fund it? From the Sovereign Wealth Fund or from where? There must be money coming in from here. Because I'm a big advocate of subsidies where it comes to agriculture.
Okay.
But it's a cabinet-wide.
For the lack of time now, quickly, gentlemen, now we are shifting focus to labor as well as power works and housing, starting with labor. And one of the promises that the Minister of Labor, Dr. Chris Ngige, said is that we are going to see reduction in the unemployment rate. We are still within very high double digits of unemployment rate in the country, and he would want to pat himself on the back with the recent passage of the minimum wage bill, which has become law as well now. Is this a success that we should be looking towards, that should tilt us and let us know that, well, at least there's something good some way, somehow?
Dr. Chris Ngige has been one of the minuses of this administration. He has not, the minimum wages, he didn't handle it well. It was not supposed to be as messy as it was. It was because of his lack of tact, that, made the thing spiral out of control. There was not enough mastery of negotiation, persuasion, and lobbying. He was not able to actually carry that. On the first instance, he was talking tough and, talking down on
Some would also want to add communication of that as well to the populace.
So he was not able to. I think he was a square peg in a round hole. I don't know why they put him there. I don't know the experience he had in labor issues, why they should even put him there in the first place. A medical doctor, and the next thing he did was a politician. So that's why we're talking about putting technocrats, some people who have dealt with labor, industrial relation issues, and all those kind of things. Those are the people you're supposed to put there, who have had experiences. HR experts from multinationals are people you should pull in, people who deal with human resource issues and the rest. But what did we have? We just have people. And then it is not always that the politicians must have that position. The politicians can nominate, people. I know some people did it in the past where it's okay, I'm giving you political patronage, we give it to them. They are entitled to have political patronage anywhere in the world.
But these individuals are vetted. You look at their portfolio,
it's a medical doctor. You can be proficient in your core competence, but when you take you out of your core, it's not like a fish. Put it in the water, it will swim very well. Put it on the tarred road, it won't do well.
Okay. The Minister of Power Works and Housing now, just like Ambrose, for the lack of time.
Let me quickly put in a word about the minister. At the moment we are talking about this, not very long ago, I think a day or so ago, there was a faux pas from him where he said
the medical doctors
in Nigeria are too much.
Yes.
And,
yesterday.
Only yesterday that if Nigerian medical doctors want to go abroad, then they are free to go, that we have too many doctors. I think it's a regrettable statement. I think it's something that requires an apology from him. I think it was he said that thing in a moment of levity. And yes, leaving that issue, when you look at the other parts of his performance, there seems to have been something lacking in terms of handling negotiations. Perhaps by nature is not suited to it. Perhaps he is not suited, he's a little arrogant and all that. We can see that there have been labor crisis upon labor crisis, whether it's the doctors, it's ASU and all that, and they often get prolonged. Things that you think that can be easily solved get prolonged. I saw it. His performance has been less than
now, the big one, Power Works and Housing.
Yes. In the Trinitarian minister.
In your scorecard now, so many would have thought that when the Minister of Power Works and Housing came into that role as the minister, we would have seen greater output when we're looking at power generation, and the masses would have electricity. As at now, the government says that they're churning no less than 8,100 megawatts, but some would argue that we're still at about 4,000, 5,000, if we want to be generous, 7,000, and that is pretty much shabby. Do you agree with that notion?
The current Minister of Power, when he was governor of Lagos State, was quoted in 2014 as saying that any serious government will get 24-hour power in 6 months. Now they're giving him the mantra, he starts singing another song. Let me do a quick statistics. Ethiopia, with a population of 105 million, is producing 4,300 megawatts of electricity. Okay? Ghana is with just 28.8 million, is producing 3,655 megawatts. South Africa, with 56 million people, producing 52,811 megawatts. Then Brazil, which will be our peer in this review, is producing not in megawatts but in gigawatts, 137 gigawatts. 1,000, you know what is gigawatts. We are not even talking about megawatts here, gigawatts. And they are producing 137 gigawatts. We are not even producing 137 what are we producing? And they have 209 million people. And we are having like 200 million people. So we should be equating ourselves with Brazil. Brazil is a third world country. That's where we are. But the minister has the effrontery to come and give a press conference. Instead of them to hide their head in shame, they are coming to give us a press conference that they're generating 8,000 megawatts. Do you think that is how low
we just have less than 2 minutes to go now. Do you think right now that we have to revisit the privatization of the power sector? Is that one area that I think the Minister of Power Works and Housing should look at, and then possibly he would have a stronger appeal to the people?
Exactly. I happen to know that Minister Fashola is a personally hardworking person. There's no doubt about that. You can see what he did in Lagos and all that. You see, the problem with the power sector, in my own view, is what happened under the Jonathan administration. There is, I personally believe that it was not proper for government to privatize NEPA.
But the deed has been done. Do you think the lines of communication to revisit that should be opened?
The deed needs to be undone. You do not privatize monopolies. When you have it, what you have in effect in NEPA is a monopoly. When you do have monopolies like that, they are better off with states. Your disco, you do not have an alternative to your disco. I don't have an alternative to my disco. You don't.
So from public to private monopoly.
Yes. The state is better at handling monopolies. You will always fail.
A minute to go now. Gentlemen. So what about
that's the problem. It's not Fashola's fault.
What do you make of metering as well? We've still seen the same narrative being told. You cannot get your meter. Meanwhile, in India, you just walk into a supermarket.
In Ghana, mod houses have the
meters. Yes. Okay. So lastly, on the show, on this segment, we'll be looking at women participation in the next cabinet of the president. Some are pushing that he should have no less than 35 to 40% of women in his cabinet. What do you make of this affirmation, women affirmation?
I think the women affirmation should just be consigned to the dustbin.
Interesting.
I mean, women should wake up. Political power is not gifted. The women, the youths are also asking for. It is not too young to run. This thing made some impact, but these things are not gifted. For the one not too young, not to be approved, you saw the effort this young man, Mr. Itodo, made to push it. So women should organize themselves properly in the political dispensation of this country. They should not be waiting for handouts, for political gifts. And so, 135, who will give you 35%? You think the men are ready to relinquish power? So they should not be seen, they should organize themselves into pressure group, into political wings. What they're doing, political rallies, they wear uniforms and go around. Is that what we're talking about? Follow the wife of the governor and all those things? Is that
somebody
politics?
would like to point out Zainab Mohammed, what's this lady's, Kemi Adeosun, Amina Mohammed, Kemi Adeosun, and the likes. They would say that these are women of substance and should be able to rise up to the occasion upon appointment.
No, I agree completely. I mean, they are competent and capable women, and I think...
So why are they not in cabinet?
I think it's you put it down to the person who selects the cabinet. I think if the president has the will, there are enough women in this country who are competent and are good and can do a very good job.
Or do you think the president stands still where he believes that women believe in the room?
What I oppose in a democratic setting is setting quotas for it. But I believe that there are competent enough women. In fact, if you want to pick a cabinet full of competent women, you can do it.
Okay, we can do it, and definitely we will, and we'll just wait and see as to what's the next move from the president. Come May 29, we would like to see a rejig, would like to see reinforcement, would like to see results given to Nigeria.
Amen to that.
Amen to that. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, Ambrose Igboke, and we've also had Steve Agiode. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
And it's time to take a quick break. When we return after the short break, we'll be talking about allegations, academicians, and ADOC staff. Stay with us.
Ṣẹ́gun fún mi. Ó ṣe mo dúpẹ́. Gbogbo ilé lọ ti tó gift. Mo rí ikọ̀ tún ni. Mo sọ fún ẹ lójoojúmọ́ pé gbogbo tó ń ṣe fún mi, ọmọ á ṣe fún ẹ nílọ́po. Abiyamọ ayé, abiyamọ ọ̀run, wọ́n súre fún ìbàjẹ́ kéré ó tóbi kò ní kún ẹ́. Ọmọ òní ní kò gbé tiwa kò ń gé jẹ. Ọmọ òní tí ẹ lọ síbi tó ò lérò. Ní gbogbo ọjọ́ ayé ẹ ò ní ríbi. Bí wọ́n bá ń pín wàhálà ìdààmú, ò tiẹ̀ ní rówó rà. Bẹ́ẹ̀ ni, ò ní kábàámọ̀. Èyí tó máa bá ṣe tó máa kó bá ìgbé ayé ẹ kò ní bẹ́ẹ̀ rí, wọn náà ní bá rí. Ọmọ adùn ẹnu, àbùkù ò ní kàn ẹ́ o. Ayé ò ní rí ẹ mú o. Mo sọ fún ẹni tinútinú tọkùtọkù. Lọ́lá ọyọ̀ méjèèjì tó kù nígbà yà ni. Mo súre fún eré àmú ẹ. Abiyamọ ayé, abiyamọ ọ̀run, wọ́n súre fún ẹ. Ó yẹ sáré gbé bàbá wọlé, ó ti ṣu ara, ó ti tọ́ ara, kò ní jẹ́ tiẹ̀. Wọnú ògo tuntun lọ, Olúwaṣẹ́gun. Wọnú ògo tuntun lọ. Ó yá wọnú ògo tuntun lọ. Wọnú ògo tuntun. Ẹlẹ́dàá mi.
Mami, airtime yín kọ́.
Ṣé ìwọ ti rókun tó gbẹ̀rí? O ti rí ọ̀sà kó gbẹ̀rí? Kò lè gbẹ́ ń bì.
Àmímà.
Àwọn ò lè sọ̀rọ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀.
Lórí àtàwọn ọ̀rẹ́ mi.
Àwọn ọ̀rẹ́ ó yá fi sí spíkà.
Wọ́n ń gbọ́ yín.
Ní ẹ̀bùn ńlá tọ́mọ mi gbé wá fèmí yìí. Ọlọ́run á ràn yín lọ́wọ́, ẹ̀yin náà lè ṣerú ẹ̀ fáwọn.
Ẹ ṣàmì mo tún ṣàdúrà. Àmímà.
Get 10 times your recharge value to call and browse anyhow. Recharge with *220 star the pin hash to enjoy this offer. Available to new and existing subscribers.
Mr. Anansa, èmi ń gbàdúrà, ìwọ ń polówó ọjà, ìwọ náà borí ẹ̀ wá kó wá gbàdúrà. Bẹ́ẹ̀ ni, á dáa fún ẹ. Ṣé orí bó ti ń tajà fẹ́ lòmíì? Àwọn máa sìn ìwọ náà àdìrú wà dìgbà, ayé àdára, ò ní dààmú.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
You're still watching Plus Politics, and now the former INEC chairman Atahiru Muhammad Jega at the opening of the two-day conference. Professor Jega decried the attitude of some lecturers during the polls, saying their actions paved the way for faulty recruitment processes of the political class during the polls, thereby betraying the confidence of the electoral body. And still with me, I have Ambrose Igboke, a public affairs analyst, as well as Steve Agode, the Director of Rules and Ethics under the Accountability, Candor and Transparency Network. Gentlemen, now we hear this report from Atahiru Jega where he's blaming the lecturers, academicians, one of his own, for the fact that we have conniving in the elements with political parties or actors, and that has also led to the seeming lack of integrity or watered down integrity of the electoral empire, especially the 2019 elections.
Well, honestly, I don't understand what Jega is talking about. Because it
says some of them were compromised.
It is the INEC that went to recruit these people. They are lecturers in the various institutions, and then they went to recruit them to come be part of the process. And most of the issues that happened, they have been using these lecturers before. I mean, especially heads of higher institutions as collating officers at the state level or the various
vice chancellors,
vice chancellors of schools, some provosts, just heads of higher institutions, and then they just use them as collating officers. They are not the field workers. INEC is the one that recruits the field workers, especially ad hoc staff, and most of the people that recruit as others are the youth corps members. So, and they have outside the youth corps members, they now have other ad hoc staff recruited. So I don't know where this is coming from. What I know is that the electoral process cannot be compromised without the active connivance of INEC staff, be it ad hoc or permanent staff. The lecturers are not, they are just the people who announce the results most of the time. And the few cases we saw that there were issues where the issues of, for example, Imo State, that the man even had to say, I am announcing this under duress, and some other places. So I am saying that the process, it cannot, the blame game is not solid, because if you are to blame people for the failure or the failures noticed in the 2019 election, it should not be the lecturers should not be singled out. The whole process, the whole INEC team should be blamed, because the onus lies on the INEC itself.
Some would also ask one of the biggest questions we've asked so far at different points in time where we've had elections. What are lecturers, what are these academicians doing in the electoral process?
Well, I think,
you mentioned fish out of water.
Yeah, I think the reason why we bring academics into electoral matters is because there's a feeling that they should know better, that their learning and education and exposure should lead them to know better the importance of the process, of the solemnity of the process. But look, Atahiru Jega is an iconic figure in what do you call it, electoral firmament. This is an individual who has ushered in people from two different parties. He has organized an election where one of the major parties won. He has also organized an election where the other party won. And there's a feeling that if there's someone that should know about our electoral process, it will be him. Also, this was the former head of ASU and a vice chancellor. I think the nation ought to reflect deeply on what Atahiru Jega said. I don't think it is an issue to be pushed over lightly. I think what needs to be done is there should be a kind of review conference of this election in which people like him are invited as resource persons to throw more light on the kind of issues that he has raised.
Ambrose, will it be too quick for us to do an assessment or some level of comparative analysis between the performance of Atahiru Jega as well as... Why are you rolling your eyes?
Well, I've been doing a comparison.
As well as Professor Mahmood Yakubu. Now, some would say it's too early. Atahiru Jega had 2 opportunities to do that. And we have here Professor Mahmood Yakubu just having 1 term, and he should learn from all of the recommendations made, and hopefully they have some level of audits and assessment being done. Yes. And then the next election, come 2023, would be better.
Well, I see, when it's not too early, because the stage where Mahmood is now, Atahiru Jega was also at that stage at first. So when you do comparative analysis, you compare in research, you compare when Atahiru Jega was on this stage, at this stage where Mahmood is now, what were his achievements? And so when you juxtapose both, you now find out that Mahmood has nowhere close to Jega. Because Mahmood already had, Jega inherited a chaotic system from, what's this man's name?
Maurice Iwu.
It was a chaotic where ballot boxes were started, results were announced anyhow, you know, all kinds of, in fact, there was a Yoruba cliche that said whether you vote or vote, you don't enter, you know, all those kind of things. So that was the impunity then. It came and started systematically built a structure. All Mahmood Yakubu needed to do was to key into that structure and improve it. So he didn't need to build anything from the scratch.
In your opinion, in my opinion, that structure and build...
In my opinion, Mahmood Yakubu has not done well.
Okay, let's also go back to lecturers now. We saw vice-chancellors as returning officers. During the announcement of results, it was... I found it a little bit disturbing that we have vice-chancellors there calling out different names of political parties and the scores they had. And you ask yourself, this is Nigeria today in 2019. A party, 190 votes. AA, 5,000 votes. ABC, this, that. What sort of input do you expect from these learned individuals to ensuring that we have an improved electoral process?
Well, I think like I said before, when you bring this kind of people, it's just that you feel that they should have a sense of the solemnity of education.
Or are they announcement machines?
Well, I would hesitate to call them that. Well, I honestly think that they have done their best. And what I think we need to do is to... I think my
question here is that what contributions do you expect these academics to bring forward towards our electoral process so that we have it improved, going beyond just announcing results and acting as returning officers?
Well, what other role?
What other do? Well, we have been having conferences. We have the INEC people itself have been having workshops and the rest facilitated by these academics. And all the issue, the onus lies on the INEC chief executive. And that is why when we are analyzing, and we call him out because the buck stops at his table. Now, the announcement of those results was a huge joke because you had 70-something political parties, and you're asking somebody to read manually. They are struggling with papers. They are losing tiny prints, and some of them, the eyesights were not good. The lighting were poor in some places, and then you made a joke of VCs, honorable VCs. You made a joke of them. How will our students feel? You're one student of the school, you see his vice chancellor fumble and one on national TV. Because he was not even able to, some of them were not able to see what they're saying. And then you are having 70-something political
I think the greater thing is to say about that, those spectacles were unnecessary. I mean, you really don't need those kind of public announcements. You could just have a screen. I think it could have, those spectacles were over dramatic.
Tardy.
What are the recommendations? We have less than a minute to go in the summary. Now, what are the recommendations from both local and international bodies, etc.? Do you expect INEC to be taking cues from and really doing a self-assessment this time around? Because Professor Mahmood Yakubu made this clear that right after the election, the electoral umpire was going to do an active, well-organized audit of the entire process and give us back a feedback?
You see, the problem I see with INEC from an outsider's point of view is I don't think there's continuity in leadership. One would have expected that when Jega left, what you would do, you engineer the next person in line to take over. You don't bring somebody from outside and all that, so that there's institutional memory.
What do you mean by someone from outside?
What I mean is that this man was obviously appointed from outside to come and take that post. So that there's institutional memory. You let the organization regenerate itself. You get my point. Bringing people in each time. The current professor is learning now. There are people under him that have worked with him who are seeing what he's doing. When he goes, the proper approach would have been let the people inside take over. They have so that institutional memory can help the process. Sometimes when somebody new comes in, even when there are people inside, it sometimes feels I know better. I know better. They may not have been doing it right. What do they know?
Okay. So thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, Steve Agiode, the Director, Rules and Ethics, Accountability, Candor and Transparency Network. Thank you very much. And we also have had Ambrose Boke as well, the Public Affairs Analyst. Thank you very much for your contribution so far. It's been an engaging one, I must say. And this is where we wrap up the edition of today's segment of Plus Politics. But it's time to bring you my take.
Almost 11 a.m. Wednesday, April 24th, and the President of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, arrives Lagos.
Just a few weeks ago, the President, Muhammadu Buhari, was visiting Lagos as the presidential candidate of the APC, majorly to ask for the votes of the electorate. But today he is visiting Lagos as the president-elect and the president. This visit is actually quite symbolic because it is for the president to get to commission projects that had been started by the outgoing governor, Akinwumi Ambode, and completed by him.